The Mariana Trench wasn't supposed to glow. Dr. Juniper Hayes pressed her face against the reinforced window of the deep-sea submersible, squinting at the impossible sight before her. At nearly 11,000 meters below sea level, the crushing darkness should have been absolute. Instead, a network of bioluminescent tendrils pulsed with an otherworldly blue light, forming patterns too regular to be natural. "Are you seeing this, Control?" Juniper's voice crackled through the comm system. She adjusted the external cameras, ensuring every moment was captured. The Nautilus Institute had funded this expedition based on her wild theory about extreme environment regenerative organisms, but even she hadn't expected anything like this. "Affirmative, Doctor. Readings are unusual." Dr. Richard Way's normally unflappable voice held a note of wonder. "Oxygen levels in the immediate vicinity are off the charts. Whatever those organisms are, they're not just surviving at that depth, they're thriving." Juniper guided the submersible closer, her heart pounding against her ribs. After 15 years of research into biological regeneration, this could be the breakthrough she'd been searching for. The loss of her father to a degenerative disease had set her on this path, but what she was witnessing now went beyond anything in modern medicine. The tendrils responded to her approach, their pulsing becoming more rapid. The light show reminded her of neural networks firing, almost as if the organism was thinking. She reached for the collection apparatus, preparing to take samples, when something caught her eye, a darker shape moving behind the luminescent curtain. "Control, I'm picking up movement at bearing 047. Can you confirm?" Static answered her. The communication system crackled, then went silent. Juniper's trained comm began to crack. She'd done dozens of deep dives, but never lost contact completely. The submersible systems remained operational, but every instrument panel now displayed impossible readings. Pressure levels fluctuated wildly, temperature sensors showed both freezing and boiling points simultaneously, and the depth gauge spun like a carnival wheel. The dark shape emerged fully from behind the bioluminescent veil. Juniper's scientific mind struggled to categorize what she was seeing. It was massive, easily dwarfing her vessel, with a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around it. Not a creature, she realized with a start, but a structure. An architecture. Her radio crackled to life, but instead of Richard's voice, she heard something else, a harmonic sequence that made her teeth ache and her vision blur. The sound resolved itself into words, though she couldn't explain how. "We have been waiting, Juniper Hayes." The voice knew her name. Panic should have overwhelmed her, but instead, a strange calm settled over her mind. The crystalline structure before her shifted, revealing an opening that pulsed with the same rhythmic light as the biological tendrils. "Your search for healing has led you to us." As it was meant to. Juniper's hand moved to the submersible's controls. Every rational part of her mind screamed that she should retreat, call for help, follow deep-sea emergency protocols. But she recognized this moment for what it was, the dividing line between everything that came before and everything that would come after. "Who are you?" she managed to ask, though she wasn't sure if her words were traveling through water, air, or something else entirely. "We are the Luminara. We have watched your species' quest to overcome death. Your personal journey to understand regeneration. You are ready for what comes next." The opening widened, and Juniper saw that the crystalline structure was just the entrance to something far larger, an entire complex hidden in the depths. As her submersible was guided inside by forces she couldn't comprehend, she activated her personal recording device. Whatever happened next, the world needed to know. The next 6 hours would change everything humanity thought they knew about life, death, and the thin line between them. Juniper learned that the Luminara were not just visitors to Earth, they were its original gardeners. The bioluminescent organisms she discovered were their monitoring system, watching humanity's development, waiting for the moment when humans advanced enough to understand what they were being offered. Inside their hidden city, the Luminara showed her wonders that defied explanation. Cellular regeneration that could regrow entire limbs in minutes. Neural pathway reconstruction that could restore lost memories. And at the heart of it all, a shimmering liquid that seemed to hold the basic building blocks of life itself. Your species stands at a crossroads, the Luminara explained, their communal voice now clear in her mind. You have begun to understand the code of life, but your understanding is incomplete. We offer you a choice, Juniper Hayes. You can take what you have seen here today, return to your world, and continue your research as before. Or you can accept our help, and together, we can unlock the full potential of both our species. Juniper stared at the vial of iridescent liquid they had placed before her. In it, she saw not just the cure for the disease that took her father, but the key to humanity's next evolutionary step. The choice seemed obvious, but years of scientific training had taught her to look deeper. What's the catch? She asked. Why choose this moment? Why me? The Luminara's response held a note of what might have been approval. You ask the right questions. We choose this moment because your world stands on the brink of several possible futures. In some, your technological advancement leads to your extinction. In others, you transcend your current limitations and join us among the stars. As for why you? Their collective consciousness shifted, showing her images of her own life, long nights in the lab, failed experiments, moments of breakthrough, and through it all, an unwavering determination to understand the mysteries of life itself. You possess both the knowledge to understand what we offer and the wisdom to use it properly. But our help comes with responsibility. The serum we show you is not just a tool for healing, it is a key to unlocking dormant potential in your species. Used correctly, it will bridge the gap between our peoples. Used wrongly, it could tear your society apart. Juniper felt the weight of the moment press down on her. She looked at the vial again, understanding now that it represented not just scientific advancement, but a fundamental choice about humanity's future. Her next words would set in motion a chain of events that would reshape human history. I accept, she said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her decision. But I want to understand everything. No shortcuts, no hidden agendas. If we're going to do this, we do it right. The Luminara's approval radiated through the chamber. Then let us begin. As her submersible later rose toward the surface, carrying precious samples and data that would both revolutionize and terrify the scientific community, Juniper felt an unexpected peace. She had glimpsed wonders that would take lifetimes to understand, but she also knew this was just the beginning. The real challenges, and opportunities, lay ahead. What she didn't know yet was that other eyes had been watching her descent. Eyes that had their own plans for the miracle she carried back to the surface. The game of creation and evolution was about to take an unexpected turn, and Juniper Hayes would find herself at the center of a storm that would determine the fate of not one, but two species. The Nautilus Institute's main laboratory had never seen security measures like this. 3 weeks after her return from the Mariana Trench, Juniper Hayes found herself working behind reinforced doors and quantum encryption protocols that would make military installations jealous. The vial of luminescent liquid sat in a specialized containment unit, its glow pulsing in perfect synchronization with her heartbeat, a phenomenon she still couldn't explain. The molecular structure is unlike anything in our database, she explained to the holographic projection of her colleague, Dr. Wei. After the initial chaos of her discovery, Richard had become her most trusted confidant. It's as if each molecule can reconfigure itself based on its environment. The healing potential is astronomical. And the risks? Richard's projection flickered with concern. He'd taken a position at their Tokyo facility to help coordinate international research efforts, but Juniper could still read the worry in his expression. Before she could respond, the lab's warning system activated. Red lights pulsed as security protocols engaged automatically. Juniper's hands flew across her workstation, bringing up external cameras. What she saw made her breath catch. A figure stood in the anteroom, tall and ethereal, its form seeming to shift between solid and liquid states. Though it looked different in the artificial light of the lab, Juniper recognized the distinctive bioluminescent patterns of the Luminera. "They're here," she whispered, more to herself than to Richard. They actually came to the surface. The security system hadn't triggered any alarms beyond the local lab warnings. Somehow, the Luminera had bypassed every external defense. As Juniper watched, the figure resolved itself into a more humanoid form, still impossibly tall and graceful, but now solid enough to interact with their world. "Dr. Hayes," the figure spoke, its voice carrying the same harmonic qualities she remembered from the deep. "The time has come to proceed with the next phase." Juniper glanced at Richard's projection, seeing her own mix of excitement and apprehension mirrored in his face. "I'll call you back," she said, closing the connection before he could object. The being introduced itself as Thera, though Juniper sensed this was more of a translation than its actual name. As it moved through the lab, equipment reacted strangely, screens flickered with complex equations, and the serum in its containment unit began to pulse more rapidly. "Your preliminary work exceeds expectations," Thera said, examining Juniper's research notes with an unsettling intensity. "But you've only scratched the surface of what the serum can do." "Then help me understand," Juniper replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. "You said we needed to work together, but you've been silent for weeks. Why now?" Thera's form shimmered, and Juniper caught glimpses of complex structures beneath its surface, like watching the inner workings of a living machine. "Because now you have proof that we exist, but not enough knowledge to proceed safely. The perfect moment for an alliance." The being produced what looked like a crystal, though its internal structure moved like liquid. "This contains the complete genetic history of our species. We were once like you, bound by physical forms, limited by linear time. The serum you found was our first step toward transcendence. But it came with a price." Images filled Juniper's mind, a civilization far more advanced than Earth's, discovering the same compound, using it to cure diseases and extend life. Then something went wrong. The changes became unpredictable. Some evolved beyond their physical forms, becoming the Luminera. Others. "The failures destroyed themselves and everyone around them," Thera explained. "We learned to stabilize the process, but now we face a new crisis. We are becoming too far removed from our original form. Without an infusion of genetic material from a compatible species, we will lose our ability to maintain any physical form at all. We will become pure energy, unable to interact with the physical world." Juniper's scientific mind raced with implications. "And you think humans are compatible? That's why you chose us? We've watched your species evolve. Your capacity for adaptation, your resilient DNA, you are perfect candidates. But we need your help to make it work. The process must be refined, tested, perfected. Otherwise..." The warning didn't need to be finished. Juniper had seen enough in her preliminary tests to understand the risks. The serum's power to heal came from its ability to rewrite genetic code on the fly. One mistake could create something catastrophic. "There's something else you should know," Thera said, its form flickering with what might have been anxiety. "We are not the only ones interested in your discovery. Others watch from the shadows, those who would use the serum for less noble purposes." As if on cue, Juniper's secure terminal lit up with an urgent message. Someone had just tried to hack their database. The attempt had been sophisticated enough to break through their first-level quantum encryption. "Your world is not ready for this knowledge to become public," Thera continued. "But we can protect you, help you understand what you've found. In exchange, we ask for your help in saving our species." Juniper thought of the implications. Working with an advanced alien species would advance human knowledge by centuries. But the risks were enormous. One mistake could have consequences beyond imagination. "I need assurances," she said finally. Full transparency about what we're doing. And I choose my own team. People I trust. Thara's form stabilized, becoming more distinctly humanoid. Agreed. But time is short. Even now, forces move against us. We must. The lab's lights cut out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red light. This time, all the alarms were blaring. They're here, Thara said, its form beginning to pulse with defensive energy. The ones who would steal your discovery. We must move quickly. Juniper's hands flew across her terminal, initiating emergency protocols. The Serum's containment unit began its lockdown sequence, but she could already hear explosions from the upper levels. Who are they? She demanded, reaching for the emergency evacuation controls. Those who have followed us across galaxies, seeking the Serum's power. They care nothing for balance or responsibility. They would use it to create weapons, to force evolution according to their design. The lab's reinforced doors began to shake. Whatever was trying to get in, it was powerful enough to bend metal designed to withstand nuclear blasts. Thara moved with liquid grace, extending its form to create a barrier between Juniper and the door. Make your choice quickly, Dr. Hayes. Once they breach that door, everything changes. Juniper looked at her life's work, at the serum that could either save or destroy two species, and at the alien being offering an alliance that would change everything. The door buckled again, and she made her decision. She grabbed the serum containment unit and her main research terminal. There's a secure exit through the thermal regulation system. We can reach the secondary lab before they break through. You trust me enough to run? Thara asked, genuine curiosity in its harmonic voice. I trust that you could have taken the serum by force weeks ago if that was your goal, Juniper replied, already moving toward the hidden exit. Right now, you're the only one trying to protect it rather than steal it. As they escaped through the maintenance tunnels, Juniper sent one last message to Richard, Protocol Omega. Bring everyone. She didn't know if they'd survive the next few hours, but she knew this: the real work was just beginning, and the future of two species now depended on their success. Behind them, the lab erupted in chaos as unknown forces breached its defenses. But they were too late, their quarry was already gone, racing toward a future that would either save two species or doom them both. The abandoned geothermal research facility deep in Iceland's interior wasn't Juniper's first choice for a hidden laboratory, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Steam rose from the surrounding volcanic vents, providing natural camouflage against thermal imaging. More importantly, the facility's location along a magnetic anomaly helped mask their energy signatures from whatever technology their pursuers were using. 3 months had passed since their escape from the Nautilus Institute. 3 months of working around the clock, testing theories, and watching Thara's condition slowly deteriorate. The Luminara's physical form was becoming increasingly unstable, shifting between states more frequently as time passed. The cellular degradation is accelerating, Juniper muttered, studying the latest test results. She'd converted half the facility into a cutting-edge genetics lab using equipment Richard had quietly sourced from sympathetic colleagues. The serum's base structure is sound, but something's still missing. Thara moved closer, its form rippling like mercury under the lab's harsh lights. Our time grows short. More of my kind lose corporeal form each day. Soon, we will exist only as consciousness, unable to interact with the physical realm. Juniper felt a now familiar ache in her chest at Thara's words. Over the past months, she'd grown to care deeply for the alien being. Their conversations had expanded far beyond science, touching on philosophy, art, and the nature of existence itself. Thara's perspective on life, shaped by millennia of evolution and observation, had fundamentally changed how Juniper saw the universe. I won't let that happen, she said firmly, turning back to her work. The latest simulation was running on their quantum computer, testing millions of possible genetic combinations per second. There's something we're missing, some crucial element that bridges the gap between human and Luminara DNA. Richard's voice crackled over their secure communication system. Juniper, we've got movement. 3 unmarked vehicles just turned off the main road, heading toward the old access route. Time estimate? 20 minutes, maybe less. I'm implementing blackout protocols now. Juniper's hands flew across her workstation, preparing to evacuate again. They'd had 2 close calls already, barely escaping with their research intact. But this time, something caught her eye on the monitor, an anomaly in the latest simulation. Wait, she breathed, enlarging the display. Thura, look at this. The Luminara flowed closer, its form briefly solidifying as it studied the screen. The simulation showed something unprecedented, a stable fusion between human and Luminara genetic markers. This is different, Thura observed, its harmonic voice vibrating with intensity. The integration is holding. Because we were thinking about it wrong, Juniper explained, excitement overtaking her concern about their approaching pursuers. We were trying to modify human DNA to accept Luminara characteristics, or vice versa. But look, this simulation shows what happens when both sets of DNA are simultaneously exposed to a catalyst. She pulled up another screen, showing the molecular structure of the original serum. It's not just a healing agent. It's a bridge, designed to create something entirely new. Juniper. Richard's voice was urgent now. 15 minutes. She ignored him, her mind racing. The serum doesn't just heal or modify, it evolves. It creates a hybrid state that's stable because it's meant to be a transition point, not an end result. Thura's form pulsed with understanding. A chrysalis stage. The point between what was and what will be. Exactly. But for it to work. Juniper's excitement faltered as the implications became clear. We need both forms present during the transformation. Not just DNA samples, but active, living cells in the process of change. You mean? A human would need to undergo the transformation simultaneously with a Luminara. The serum would use both as templates to create a stable new form. She looked at Thura, her heart pounding. It would have to be perfect synchronization. Any mistake would be fatal, Thura finished. Its form flickered, showing stress fractures in its usually smooth surface. And there would be no way to predict the outcome. The participants would have to trust completely in the process, and each other. The facility's lights dimmed as Richard initiated their emergency protocols. 10 minutes. Juniper, we need to move. But she couldn't move. Not now. Not when they were so close. She looked at her research, then at Thura, whose form was becoming increasingly transparent, a sign of its advancing deterioration. I'll do it, she said quietly. Thura's form solidified in shock. What? I'll be the human participant. We have everything we need here. The serum, the equipment, the research. It's too dangerous, Thura interrupted, its voice carrying harmonics of distress. The chances of success are better than the chances of figuring this out if we have to run again. Juniper was already moving, preparing the necessary equipment. We're out of time, Thura. Your people are running out of time. And I. She paused, looking at the being she'd grown to care for more deeply than she'd admitted even to herself. I can't watch you fade away. The sound of distant vehicles echoed through the facility's corridors. Richard's voice was frantic now. 5 minutes. Thura's form shifted, stretching toward her. If we do this, there's no going back. Success or failure, you will be forever changed. I know. Juniper's hands were steady as she prepared the serum injection system. But some changes are worth the risk. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Juniper's scientific training took over as she set up the transformation chamber, a modified hyperbaric unit they'd been using for smaller experiments. She loaded the serum into twin injection systems, one calibrated for her human physiology, the other designed to interface with Thera's energy-based form. "Richard," she called over the comm, "initiate Protocol Phoenix. Full lockdown, all data encrypted and transmitted to secure servers." "Juniper, wait. That's an order." She softened her tone. "Thank you for everything, old friend. If this works, you'll know where to find us." The chamber sealed with a soft hiss. Juniper lay back, watching as Thera's form flowed into the adjacent compartment. Their eyes met, her human ones and Thera's luminescent sensors, and a moment of perfect understanding passed between them. "Ready?" she asked, her finger hovering over the injection trigger. "Since the moment we met," Thera replied, its form pulsing with an emotion that transcended human definition. They activated the system together. The serum flowed into both chambers simultaneously, glowing with a light that seemed to bend reality itself. Juniper felt it enter her bloodstream, cold at first, then burning like stellar fire. The last thing she saw before consciousness faded was Thera's form beginning to merge with the light, reaching for her across the barrier between their chambers. Then everything dissolved into pure energy and possibility, as two beings began their journey toward becoming something entirely new. Outside, their pursuers breached the facility's outer defenses, but they were already too late. The transformation had begun, and with it, the next chapter in the evolution of two species. The only question that remained was what would emerge from the chrysalis of light and change, and whether the universe was ready for what they would become. That was all Juniper knew for what felt like an eternity. Not the gentle light of dawn or even the harsh glare of laboratory equipment, but something far more fundamental, the raw essence of illumination itself. She existed within it, becoming both more and less than human with each passing moment. Time had no meaning in this state. She could have been floating in the light for seconds or centuries. Occasionally, she caught glimpses of another consciousness moving through the radiance with her, Thera's essence, she realized, though essence seemed an inadequate word for what they had become. Their minds touched, merged, separated, and merged again. Each contact brought understanding that transcended language. She saw the history of the Luminara race played out across millennia, their evolution from physical beings into creatures of energy and thought, their careful shepherding of promising species across countless galaxies, their growing fear as they felt themselves slipping away from the physical realm entirely. In turn, she felt Thera experiencing her memories, the death of her father that drove her into medical research, the loneliness of pursuing knowledge others thought impossible, the moment of wonder when she first discovered the glowing organisms in the depths. Through it all ran a current of something deeper, an emotion that defied categorization in either human or Luminara terms. The first sign that something was changing came as a ripple through the light. Where before there had been only uniform radiance, now patterns began to emerge. Complex fractals of energy twisted through space, forming structures that seemed to exist in more dimensions than Juniper's human mind could comprehend. "We are becoming," Thera's thoughts merged with hers. But into what? The question had barely formed when the pain began. Not physical pain, they were beyond physical form, but something more fundamental. It felt as though every atom of their being was being pulled apart, examined, and reassembled according to some vast and incomprehensible blueprint. Outside their shared consciousness, in what remained of the transformation chamber, Richard Way watched in awe as energy readings went off the scale. The entire facility hummed with power that seemed to flow from everywhere and nowhere at once. The pursuers who had breached the outer defenses found themselves unable to approach the central laboratory, held back by fields of force they couldn't begin to understand. Within the light, Juniper felt herself reaching a critical point. The pain intensified, and with it came a choice. She could feel her human consciousness trying to retreat, to preserve itself unchanged. At the same time, she sensed Thera struggling with a similar decision, the pull to remain purely energy-based, to reject the merger with physical form. Together, they thought as one, and surrendered to the transformation. The light exploded outward, then collapsed in on itself. In that infinite moment, Juniper understood everything, the true nature of life, consciousness, evolution. She saw the universe not as a human or even as a luminara, but as something entirely new. The first breath of her new existence felt like being born again. Her consciousness settled into a form that was neither fully physical nor purely energy-based. She opened eyes that could perceive spectrums of light and dimensions of space her human mind had never imagined. Beside her, Thera's consciousness resided in a similar state, their forms mirror images of each other, shimmering with internal light while maintaining a physical presence that could interact with the material world. "We succeeded," Juniper spoke, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate with meaning. The words were unnecessary, they could communicate far more efficiently through thought, but the act of speaking helped anchor her to this new reality. "More than succeeded," Thera replied, their form rippling with joy and wonder. "We have become something unprecedented. The perfect fusion of physical and energy being." Their shared consciousness expanded, touching the minds of others. The remaining luminara, scattered across the galaxy, felt the success of the transformation. Hope rippled through their collective awareness. They now had a path forward, a way to maintain their connection to the physical realm while continuing their evolution. At the same time, Juniper's human consciousness reached out to the stunned observers in the laboratory. Richard stood at his monitoring station, tears streaming down his face as he witnessed something that shattered every preconception about the nature of life itself. The hostile forces that had pursued them found themselves confronted with beings they couldn't begin to comprehend. Their weapons, designed to capture and contain, were useless against entities that existed simultaneously in multiple states of being. "They're from the Nexus Corporation," Juniper perceived, reading the truth from their minds effortlessly. "A private military contractor that discovered traces of Luminara technology decades ago. They've been trying to weaponize it ever since. Their involvement ends now," Thera declared. With a thought, they disabled the intruder's equipment and extracted every piece of data related to their research. They will remember only that their mission failed. The how and why will remain a mystery to them. Juniper marveled at how natural it felt to manipulate energy and matter in this way. Her scientific mind remained intact, but now she understood the universe on a fundamental level that made her previous knowledge seem like a child's first attempts at reading. "The transformation is stable," she observed, analyzing their new form with senses that transcended conventional scientific instruments. "The serum created exactly what we theorized, a bridge between states of being. But it's more than that. We haven't just preserved both forms, we've evolved into something greater than either." Through their shared consciousness, they could feel the impact their transformation would have on both species. The Luminara would no longer face extinction, able to maintain their connection to the physical realm through this new hybrid state. Humanity would gain access to knowledge and capabilities beyond their wildest dreams, though it would take time to prepare them for such advancement. "We need to establish protocols," Juniper thought, her scientist's caution merging with Thera's millennia of experience. "Not everyone will be ready for this transformation. Not everyone should be." Agreed. It must be a choice, freely made, with full understanding of the consequences. Thera's consciousness merged with hers more fully, sharing visions of how they could proceed. "We will need to create a new facility, somewhere between your world and ours, where we can carefully guide both species toward this potential future." Their shared consciousness expanded further, touching the ancient Luminara installation hidden in the Mariana Trench where their journey had begun. With their new abilities, they could transform it into a bridge between worlds, a place where chosen individuals from both species could learn, grow, and eventually undertake their own transformations. Richard cleared his throat, drawing their attention back to the immediate surroundings. "So, I suppose my role as lab assistant just got a lot more interesting?" Juniper's new form rippled with amusement, an emotion that manifested as waves of multicolored light flowing through her energy matrix. We'll need someone to help bridge the gap between old and new. Someone who understands both the science and the importance of proceeding with caution. And someone to remind us of the human perspective, Thera added. As we guide others toward transformation, we must not forget the importance of maintaining connection with both aspects of our heritage. The hostile forces had retreated, their memories altered, their threat neutralized. But Juniper and Thera knew this was just the beginning. They had opened a door that could never be fully closed, a door that led to humanity's next great leap forward. As they prepared to leave the facility, Juniper felt a moment of nostalgia for her purely human existence. But when Thera's consciousness brushed against hers, sharing feelings that transcended physical expression, she knew she had made the right choice. They had not only saved the Luminara and advanced human potential, they had discovered a new form of existence that honored and elevated both. The light within them pulsed with shared purpose as they rose into the air, their hybrid forms shimmering with possibilities yet to be explored. The next chapter in the evolution of both species was about to begin, and they would write it together, one transformation at a time. 1 year after the transformation, the Mariana Research Institute rose from the ocean depths like a dream made real. Its crystalline spires stretched toward the surface, while its deeper levels extended into the abyssal plane where Juniper had first encountered the Luminara. The structure existed in multiple states simultaneously, visible to those who knew where to look, yet hidden from the eyes and instruments of the unprepared world above. Juniper stood in the central chamber, her hybrid form casting prismatic patterns across the walls. The year had brought changes she could never have imagined, each day revealing new aspects of what she and Thera had become. Their consciousness remained distinct yet intertwined, their shared existence proving that evolution could take paths undreamed of by either species alone. The first candidates have arrived, Thera announced, their form shimmering into existence beside her. Like Juniper, they had mastered the art of shifting between physical and energy states, though both preferred this intermediate form that honored their shared heritage. Through the chamber's transparent walls, Juniper observed the newcomers. 3 humans, carefully chosen scientists and philosophers who had demonstrated both the intellectual capacity and emotional maturity necessary for transformation. With them came 2 Luminara, their energy forms already showing signs of the degradation that had nearly destroyed their species. Their pair bonded already, Juniper noted, sensing the connections forming between human and Luminara partners. Just as we theorized. The discovery that successful transformation required a deep emotional bond between participants had been unexpected but made perfect sense in retrospect. The merger of forms demanded complete trust, an openness to change that went beyond mere physical adaptation. She and Thera had succeeded because their connection transcended professional collaboration or even friendship, though they still struggled to define exactly what it had become. Richard's preliminary assessments are promising, Thera said, their consciousness brushing against Juniper's in what had become a gesture of affection. The human candidates show remarkable psychological resilience. And the Luminara have maintained their physical cohesion longer than expected, drawn perhaps by the potential they sense in their partners. Juniper moved through the chamber, adjusting the quantum fields that would facilitate the transformations. The process had been refined since their own desperate experiment in Iceland, but it remained profound and irreversible. Each pair would emerge forever changed, becoming part of something larger than either species had imagined possible. There's been another inquiry from the United Nations, Richard reported, entering the chamber. The past year had aged him, the weight of maintaining secrecy while preparing for this moment evident in the gray at his temples. Yet his eyes shone with the same enthusiasm that had made him her most trusted colleague. They're suspicious of the energy signatures we're generating, even with our shielding. They're not ready, Juniper replied, her voice carrying harmonics of certainty. The world above must evolve socially and ethically before we can reveal ourselves fully. One wrong step could lead to panic, to attempts to weaponize what we've discovered. The memory of Nexus Corporation's aggression remained clear, though the corporation itself had mysteriously dissolved months ago, its leadership suddenly developing an intense interest in humanitarian causes. Juniper and Thura's influence had been subtle but effective, demonstrating that their new abilities could reshape society without direct intervention. "The candidates are ready to begin," Thura observed, their form brightening with anticipation. "They've completed the preliminary bonding exercises." Juniper extended her consciousness, touching the minds of the waiting pairs. She felt their mixture of excitement and apprehension, so similar to what she had experienced a year ago. But they had advantages she and Thura hadn't: preparation, understanding, and guides who had already walked this path. "Let's begin with orientation," she decided, her form shifting to a more approachable state. The candidates would need time to adjust to communicating with beings like herself and Thura, to understand that they were looking at their own potential future. The next few hours passed in a blur of explanation and demonstration. Juniper and Thura showed their new students what was possible, letting them glimpse the true nature of reality through temporarily enhanced senses. The humans struggled to process what they were experiencing, while the Luminara vibrated with recognition of potential they had long suspected but never achieved alone. "The transformation is not an end," Thura explained to the assembled group, their form interweaving with Juniper's in a display of their perfect synchronization. "It is a beginning, a door opening to possibilities neither of our species could reach alone. But it requires sacrifice," Juniper added, her scientist's honesty compelling her to ensure they understood completely. "You will no longer be purely human or purely Luminara. The beings you become will be something new, carrying the heritage of both species but bound by the limitations of neither." She felt their resolve strengthen rather than weaken at these words. Each pair moved closer together, their energies already beginning to harmonize in preparation for what was to come. "The first transformation will begin tomorrow," she announced, watching as excitement and nervous anticipation rippled through the group. "Today, take time to center yourselves, to be sure of your choice. What we offer cannot be undone." As the candidates withdrew to their preparation chambers, Juniper felt Thura's consciousness merge more fully with her own. Together, they expanded their awareness, touching the minds of other Luminara scattered across the galaxy. More were coming, drawn by the success of their experiment, seeking human partners with whom they could share this evolution. "We'll need to expand the facility," Juniper mused, already envisioning new levels rising from the ocean floor. "Establish protocols for selecting candidates, create training programs. Build a bridge between worlds," Thura finished, their shared thoughts flowing seamlessly. "But carefully, always carefully. The balance is delicate." Richard watched them with a mixture of scientific fascination and genuine affection. "You know, a year ago I would have said this was impossible. That humans weren't ready for this kind of change." "Most aren't," Juniper agreed, her form shifting to a more human-like appearance out of habit when addressing him. "But they will be, in time. Each successful transformation creates ripples, subtle influences that prepare the way for greater understanding." "And your own transformation?" Richard asked softly. "Any regrets?" Juniper's consciousness merged once more with Thura's, their combined form pulsing with colors that represented emotions no human language could describe. In their shared existence, they had discovered something beyond physical attraction or even spiritual connection, a way of being that represented the next step in conscious evolution. "The only regret would have been not taking the risk," she replied, feeling Thura's agreement resonate through their bond. "We haven't just saved two species, we've opened the door to what both species could become." As if in response to her words, the facility hummed with power, its crystalline structures reflecting the possibility contained within its walls. Deep beneath the ocean's surface, at the boundary between worlds, the next chapter in the story of both species was about to begin. The candidates would start their transformations tomorrow, adding their own unique harmonies to the growing symphony of evolved consciousness. And after them would come others, each pair bringing new perspectives, new possibilities to explore. Juniper and Thura moved as one through their creation, their hybrid form a living testament to what was possible when boundaries dissolved and evolution took unexpected paths. They had become something unprecedented, not quite human, not quite Luminera, but perfectly, uniquely themselves. As they prepared for the next day's ceremonies, their combined consciousness reached out to touch the fabric of reality itself, sensing the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. The serum that had brought them together had done more than heal or restore, it had opened a door to humanity's next great adventure. And this was just the beginning.